Graduate who knows the value of a liberal education, I have one piece of advice for the youth of America. Don't go to college. You're the teachers' union education party, and you've turned schools and colleges into a joke.
Was once sold as the surest path to success, and Bill Maher just exposed how badly that promise has broken. He just tore into the universities, the culture, and the Democrats who built the system that's now failing students, parents, and taxpayers all at once. He didn't ease into it. But before we move further, if you enjoy short commentary videos with full breakdowns, take just 2 seconds to subscribe to the channel. Alright, let's get back to our
Ivy League graduate who knows the value of a liberal education, I have one piece of advice for the youth of America. Don't go to college. And if you absolutely have to go, don't go to an elite college, because as recent events have shown, it just makes you stupid. There are few, if any, positives to come out of what happened in Israel, but one of them is opening America's eyes to how higher education has become indoctrination into a stew of bad ideas, among them the simplistic notion that the world is a binary place where everyone is either an oppressor or oppressed.
Your kid to college, and if you absolutely have to send them, keep them far away from the Ivy League. Critics say this isn't a joke anymore. Because the numbers back Maher up in ways that make every parent's stomach drop, American families now owe over $1.81 trillion in student loan debt. 45 million Americans are locked into monthly payments they will still be making in their 42nd and 52nd. And the prestigious degrees, costing them $86,000 a year, are producing graduates who, according to the Burning Glass Institute, end up underemployed 45% of the time. Look, this isn't education anymore. This is financial slavery with a graduation cap on top.
At a time, and I have two professors here, I want to ask you guys, what is going on at college? Because we talk it about a lot here, but I haven't been on a college campus in quite some time. It's just what I read. But I do want to just ask you about certain statistics, because one thing that I think you might agree on is that there has been, and people may not be aware of, is that there has been a sea change at who is running the college. It used to be the professors, right? And now it's administrators. Some of the numbers I find mind-boggling. Yale has 5,307 undergrads and 3,500 administrators. Stanford has 10,896 managerial and professional staff. These are not the professors. 10,000? First of all, what do these people do?
5,307 undergrads, 3,500 administrators. Read that ratio one more time. Almost one full-time bureaucrat for every student who actually shows up to learn. Stanford nearly 11,000 managerial and professional staff. Critics say this isn't a university anymore. This is a corporation with a football team attached to it. In 1990, colleges had roughly twice as many professors as administrators. By 2012, those numbers were equal. Here's the reason your tuition bill keeps climbing every year. Nobody is paying $86,000 a year to hire more teachers.
Very important issue. So what's happened in the last generation or generation and a half, there's been a sea change, a transformation in the American university. I would say a consumer-centered transformation where the student has effectively become the consumer. And the college experience, quote unquote, has become the center of what college is about, as opposed to education. And this has had a number of negative effects. Perhaps most important, colleges now, many colleges, many universities are now run like businesses. And I just want to get this statistic out because it's very crucial. About 70% of professors are non-tenured track. That means they are paid very low. That means they don't have any job stability really oftentimes, and that means they don't have any benefits. And in the 1970s, that number was around
70% of professors in America are now non-tenure track. That means low pay, no stability, no benefits, fired at the end of every semester if the university feels like it. In the 1970s, that number was completely reversed. Professors had job security, protection, and the time to actually teach. Critics say this is exactly what happens when the goal of a college stops being learning and starts being profit. The people who write the books, run the labs, and build the actual value of a degree are treated like part-time waiters. Meanwhile, the administrators writing memos about student experience, get corner offices, and six-figure salaries. To Maher, this is the greatest bait and switch in American education history.
They doing? I just want to know. I read recently, like the tech industry just had a big bloodbath and they fired up a whole bunch of people, and then it came out, a lot of them admitted they did nothing. Well, they weren't even pretending. We didn't do anything.
They have meetings.
What do these people do?
They have meetings.
Meetings.
They write memos. They oversee the enforcement of regulations.
Regulations?
They cultivate alumni for donors, and they kowtow to their clients, the students, because, as Danny says, it's a consumer-driven thing that's going on. What they don't do is educate anybody. They don't write any books.
They don't produce new knowledge. But I just want to make a quick final point. I think you see this in the larger American...
These people do. That is the question that should be printed on every tuition bill in America. Meetings, memos, enforcing regulations nobody asked for, kissing up to alumni for donations, kowtowing to students who behave like paying customers instead of learners. Critics say the truly shocking part is that most of these administrators aren't creating anything at all. No books, no research, no new knowledge, just email chains and diversity training seminars nobody attends.
Graduation season has ended, and we won't be spoiling anyone's big day. Let's talk about what higher education in America really is. A racket that sells you a very expensive ticket to the upper middle class. President Biden's American Families Plan asks the taxpayers to pony up hundreds of billions so that everyone can go to college, and billions more for subsidized childcare so our kids can go to school while we go to school. The theory being that all this education trickles down and eventually gets to Florida. Now, the right is calling Biden's plan social engineering, which is over the top, but Biden's plan is an endorsement of a particular idea, that the more time humans spend in classrooms staring at blackboards, the better.
There is the racket the political class refuses to acknowledge because they built it. According to the Council on Foreign Relations, U.S., college tuition has grown many times faster than income for decades. Critics say the last president administration's push to send even more taxpayer money into this bloated system was one of the biggest cash grabs of the decade.
Liberals see more school the way Republicans see tax cuts, as the answer to everything. We imagine going to college is the way to fight income inequality, but actually it does the reverse. If you have a bachelor's degree, you make about 65% more than someone who doesn't. And with a master's degree, it's more like 100% more. And the unemployment rate of college grads is about half what it is for high school grads. I know free college is a left-wing thing, but is it really liberal for someone who doesn't go to college and makes less money to pay for people who do go and make more? I'm asking. Especially since colleges have turned into giant luxury daycare centers with overpaid babysitters anxious to indulge every student whim.
Punchline no Democrat wants to hear. If you already earn more money by having a degree, why should the plumber down the street pay for your gender studies master's? Critics say this is the con at the heart of the whole free college pitch. It takes money from working Americans who never got a degree and hands it to the college-educated class that already earns nearly twice as much. To Maher, this isn't fairness. This is reverse robbery.
University of Missouri has a river grotto inspired by the Playboy Mansion. Texas Tech has one of the largest water parks in the country that includes a 25-person hot tub, tanning deck, water slide, and a lazy river. A third of students now spend less than 5 hours a week studying, and when they do, it's for their onerous magnum cum bullshit course load of sports marketing, history through Twitter, advanced racist spotting, intro to microaggressions, and you owe me an apology 101. Why is China kicking our ass? Because in 2019, we issued more undergrad degrees in visual and performing arts
than in computer and information science or math.
Parks, Playboy Mansion grottos, 25-person hot tubs. That is not a joke. That is your $80,000 tuition at work. But critics say the real disgrace is what students study while sitting in those hot tubs. Sports marketing, history through Twitter. Meanwhile, China is graduating engineers, coders, and scientists at record speed. And America, in Maher's own words, is graduating more people in visual and performing arts than in computer science or math. Look, this is not education. This is a 4-year vacation with a diploma at—
In the immortal words of her daughter, Olivia Jade, I don't know how much school I'm going to attend, but I do want the experience of, like, game days and partying. Yeah, I'm not paying for that. In 1960, colleges awarded A's to 15% of the students. Well, now it's 45%. And it's not because they got smarter. It's because of Adderall. Yeah, kind of. But also, colleges are businesses selling a consumer product for hundreds of thousands of dollars, and they want to give the customers what they want, a magical piece of paper called a diploma.
Jade Giannulli, daughter of a Hollywood celebrity, openly saying she doesn't even care about school. She just wants game days and partying, and her parents paid a bribe to get her into USC. Critics say the truly outrageous part is what came next. In 1960, only 15% of college students got an A. Today, it's 45%. Not because kids got smarter, because the whole system is designed to give the customer what they want. And the customer paying $80,000 a year wants an A. That right there is Maher's diagnosis. Colleges have stopped grading students. They have started rewarding them for
Priesthood of academia sells a different ticket to heaven. And because it's so necessary, colleges can charge whatever they want. Since 1985, the average cost of college has risen 500%. What other business? It doubles every 9 years. Every year it increases at 4 times the rate of inflation. And yet no one knows how to change a tire. The answer isn't to make college free. The answer is to make it more unnecessary, which it is for most jobs. So that the 2/3 of Americans who either can't afford to or just don't want to go don't feel shut out. Because the system we have sets up this winner-loser dynamic and breeds resentment.
100%. That is how much college tuition has climbed since 1985. Critics say no other legitimate business on earth grows at 4 times the rate of inflation for 4 straight decades without being investigated. Maher's line about the tire cuts because every parent already knows it's true. You can spend $300,000 on a Harvard degree and your kid still can't fix a leaky faucet, replace a light switch, or file their own—
Point the fingers at and then it was off to ethics class. Now, I recognize that a certain amount of foolishness is expected of college kids, but mixing Jägermeister and tomato juice isn't the same as siding with terrorists. 34 student groups at Harvard signed a letter that said the apartheid regime is the only one to blame, proving they don't know what constitutes apartheid. They don't know much of anything, actually. But it doesn't deter them from having an opinion. They've convinced themselves Israel is the most repressive regime in history because they have no knowledge of history, or even a desire to know.
4 student groups at Harvard signed a letter blaming the innocent side of a horror clash. Critics say this one moment exposed everything wrong with the modern elite university system. These aren't uneducated kids. These are the children of the richest and most well-connected families in America, and they still couldn't tell the difference between right and wrong when it mattered most. To Maher, that is because they were never taught to. They were taught slogans instead of history, feelings instead of facts, and outrage instead of judgment. And then Maher exposes the biggest fraud in Ivy League history.
I mean, they kind of got what they had coming because they had to go in front of Congress and convince them that they actually now we're good on free speech, and nobody believed them. Harvard, it earned its position dead last. And I always give the example, when it comes to Harvard, Carol Hooven, for example. She's someone who was on a show. She was promoting a book about testosterone. She made the point that we should be kind and compassionate towards trans people, use their pronouns, but we can't pretend that biological isn't real. And the DEI administrator at Harvard started complaining about it. Some of these students are boycotting her class and writing petitions. And she left Harvard because of the environment. And so nobody could actually take seriously the idea that they believe in free speech. Meanwhile, the president of Penn, after her disastrous performance, comes out and says, oh, you know what? We're not actually going to have our policies match constitutional standards anymore. And it's like, no, you've been letting administrators clamp down on speech for decades now. This will only make it worse.
Dead last on free speech. Not high, not low, dead last. Critics say the Carol Hooven case is the perfect example. A serious scientist promoting a serious book chased out of her own university because a diversity administrator did not like a single line about biological reality. To Maher, this isn't free speech at all. This is a corporate compliance department dressed up in academic robes. And the fact that Harvard tried to convince Congress they were good on free speech tells you everything. Nobody in that hearing room
Our primary reason voting for him is to create a bulwark against you, because your side thinks silence is violence and looting is not. Because you're the party of chasing speakers off college campuses and making everyone walk on eggshells and replacing let's not see color with let's see it always and everywhere, formerly the position of the Ku Klux Klan. It would be so easy to win elections if we would just drop this shit. Democrats need to listen to our new president-elect's old boss.
This idea of purity and you're never compromised and you're always politically woke and all that stuff, you should get over that quickly.
Quickly, like before they voted.
is named directly. Democrats built the whole walk on eggshells culture that has destroyed campus life. Critics say this is the exact reason working class voters keep walking away from the party in droves. Nobody wants to send their kid to a college where saying the wrong thing gets you canceled, expelled, or publicly shamed on the internet. That right there is Maher's whole point. This is not liberalism anymore. This is authoritarianism with a diversity training.
I got bad news for you. They don't have a monopoly on stupid. You wear Queers for Palestine t-shirts and masks 2 years after the pandemic ended. And you can't define woman, person who menstruates. You're the teachers' union education party, and you've turned schools and colleges into a joke. You just lost a crazy contest to an actual crazy person. You love to speak truth to power, and we always should, but you have completely lost the ability to speak truth to.
There it is. You are the teachers' union education party, and you've turned schools and colleges into a joke. Critics say this is the line every American parent has been waiting for a public liberal to say out loud. Test scores are crashing. Kids are graduating high school unable to read at grade level. College campuses are producing activists who cannot debate their own opinions. And the party in charge of the entire education system keeps pretending everything is fine. In Maher's view, this is not a policy failure, but a moral.
They seem like these men like these, and the kids who signed the Harvard letter have nothing in common. Actually, I think they do. They all came out of an factory. So, to the older folks, I say, college today is not the college you remember. And to the younger people, I say, don't do it. You don't need 4 years and a lifetime of crippling debt to learn to hate America when you can just watch 5 minutes of Selling Sunset. If your parents have $300 grand, they absolutely need to flush down the toilet, put it in crypto, or buy a van, go to a national park and feed yourself to a bear. Because any legacy dipshit can go to Penn But a bear? That's hard to get into.
That is exactly what Maher called the modern American elite university system, and the numbers back him up brutally. Total American student loan debt now sits at $1.81 trillion. 45 million Americans are drowning in monthly payments. Nearly half of college graduates end up underemployed, and private tuition at some Ivy League schools has now crossed $90,000 a year, all in. Critics say the parents writing those checks are being scammed twice, once by the tuition bill, and again by the graduate they get back. To Maher, the entire model needs to be destroyed and rebuilt from the ground up. Now I want to hear from you. So tell me, is Bill Maher right that college has become the biggest scam in America? Would you send your kid to an Ivy League school today? And is the modern Democratic Party even capable of fixing the education system it broke? Drop your answer in the comments, hit that like if Maher said what needed to be said, and subscribe.